The rain-soaked dawn on Highway 16 felt endless. Ethan Cole, a widowed construction worker raising 3 daughters alone, was trudging toward town when he saw a figure crumpled beside the road. A woman, bloodied, her wheelchair shattered beside her. He carried her home through the fog, unaware that the stranger lying in his bed once owned the company that had destroyed his livelihood. By the time he learns who she is, Sophia Langford, former CEO of Langford Industries, his life, his pain, and his future will never be the same. What began as mercy soon becomes redemption. The fog clung to Highway 16 like a shroud, thick and gray in the pre-dawn stillness. Ethan Cole walked with his head down, boots scuffing against the cracked asphalt. His truck had died 2 days ago, transmission gone, no money to fix it, so now he walked the 7 miles to the construction site. His breath came out in white puffs. His hands, raw from yesterday's work, were shoved deep in his jacket pockets. The rain had stopped an hour before, but everything was still wet. The trees dripped. The road gleamed black. Somewhere in the distance, a crow called out, sharp and lonely. Ethan was thinking about his daughters. Lila, 9 years old, had asked him last night if they could afford new shoes. Emma, 6, needed glasses the school nurse had sent home a note. And Rose, just 4, still cried for her mother at night, even though it had been 2 years since the cancer took her. He was so lost in thought that he almost missed it. A shape, dark against the gravel shoulder, too big to be an animal, too still to be alive. Ethan stopped. His heart kicked hard in his chest. He stepped closer, squinting through the mist. It was a woman. She lay on her side, half in the ditch, half on the road. Her clothes were torn. Her face was bruised, swollen. Blood matted her blonde hair, and beside her, twisted and broken, was a wheelchair, its frame bent, one wheel spinning slowly in the wind. "Jesus," Ethan whispered. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands shaking. Her skin was cold. Too cold. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. There. Faint. But there. "Ma'am? Can you hear me?" No response. Her eyelids didn't even flutter. Ethan looked around. The road was empty. No cars. No houses. Just trees and fog and silence. His phone was at home. He couldn't afford to replace it after the last one broke. The nearest house was Mrs. Grayson's, 3 miles back. He looked down at the woman again. At the bruises on her wrists. The scrapes on her knuckles. The way her legs lay at odd angles. Unmoving. Someone had done this to her. Someone had beaten her and left her here to die. Ethan made a decision. He slipped his arms under her, one beneath her knees, one behind her shoulders, and lifted. She was lighter than he expected. Too light. He adjusted his grip, cradling her against his chest, and started walking. Not toward town, toward home. The fog swallowed them whole. By the time Ethan reached his house, his arms were screaming. His back burned. Sweat soaked through his shirt despite the cold. But he didn't stop. Didn't set her down. He kicked open the front door and carried her straight to his bedroom, the only room on the first floor. He laid her on the bed as gently as he could. Her head lolled to the side. A smear of blood stained his pillow. "Stay with me," he whispered, though he didn't know if she could hear. "Just stay with me." He ran to the bathroom, grabbed towels, filled a bowl with warm water. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped it. When he returned, he knelt beside the bed and began to clean her face. The blood came away slowly, revealing more bruises. A split lip, a gash above her left eyebrow. Her breathing was shallow, ragged. Ethan pressed a towel to the worst of the cuts, trying to stop the bleeding. His mind raced. He needed to call someone. The police. An ambulance. But his landline was disconnected last month. He'd had to choose between the phone bill and groceries, and Mrs. Grayson's phone was the only one within walking distance. He couldn't leave her alone. Not like this. So he stayed. He cleaned her wounds, He covered her with blankets. He sat on the edge of the bed, his hand hovering over hers, afraid to touch but unable to look away. And then he prayed. It had been a long time since Ethan had prayed. Not since the night his wife, Caroline, died in the hospital, her hand going cold in his. But now, in the dim light of his bedroom, with a stranger's life hanging by a thread, he bowed his head and spoke to God. "Please," he whispered. "Please don't let her die. Not here. Not like this." The woman's eyes moved beneath her lids. Her lips parted. A sound escaped, soft, broken, barely audible. "They burned my chair." "Veronica," Ethan leaned closer. What did you say?" But she was gone again, slipping back into unconsciousness. He sat back, his heart pounding. Burned her chair. Veronica. Someone had done this on purpose. Ethan stayed by her side for another hour, watching the rise and fall of her chest, checking her pulse every few minutes. When the sky outside began to lighten, he finally forced himself to stand. His daughters would be waking soon. He needed to get to Mrs. Grayson's house. He needed to call for help. He covered the woman with another blanket, tucked it around her shoulders, and slipped out of the room. The walk to Mrs. Grayson's took 20 minutes. The old woman lived alone in a yellow house at the end of Maple Road, surrounded by overgrown rose bushes and a sagging fence. Ethan knocked hard on the door. "Mrs. Grayson, it's Ethan Cole. I need to use your phone." The door opened a crack. Mrs. Grayson peered out, her gray hair in curlers, her face suspicious. "Ethan? It's barely 6 in the morning. I found someone on the road," he said, breathless. "A woman. She's hurt bad. I need to call an ambulance." Mrs. Grayson's expression shifted. She opened the door wider. "Come in." "Phone's in the kitchen." Ethan dialed 911, his fingers clumsy on the buttons. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. 911. "What's your emergency?" "I found a woman on Highway 16, Ethan said, the words tumbling out. "She's been beaten. She's unconscious. She needs help." The dispatcher's voice was calm, efficient. "Where is she now?" "My house." 42, Ashwood Lane. "Is she breathing?" "Yes, barely." "Okay, sir. I'm sending an ambulance now. Stay with her. Keep her warm. Don't move her unless you have to." Ethan hung up and turned to Mrs. Grayson. "Thank you." She nodded, her face grave. "You did the right thing, Ethan." He ran the whole way home. The ambulance arrived 30 minutes later, its siren wailing through the morning stillness. 2 paramedics burst through the door, carrying a stretcher and a medical kit. Ethan stepped aside, letting them work. They checked her vitals, started an IV, stabilized her neck. One of them, a young woman with short brown hair, looked up at Ethan. "How long has she been like this?" "I found her around 5 this morning." "Any idea what happened?" "No." "But," Ethan hesitated, "I think someone did this to her. On purpose." The paramedic's eyes narrowed. "Why do you say that?" "There were marks on her wrists, like she'd been tied up, and her wheelchair was destroyed. Not broken, destroyed, like someone smashed it." The 2 paramedics exchanged a glance. "We'll let the police know," the woman said. "Right now. We need to get her to the hospital." They lifted her onto the stretcher. Ethan followed them out, watching as they loaded her into the ambulance. Just before the doors closed, the woman's eyes opened just a sliver. Just for a second, she looked at him, and then she was gone. Ethan stood in his driveway, watching the ambulance disappear down the road. His daughters were still asleep. The house was quiet. But something had shifted. Something he couldn't name. He went back inside, to his bedroom, and stared at the blood-stained sheets. Who was she? And why had someone tried to kill her? Street Helena Memorial Hospital smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Ethan sat in the waiting room, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes fixed on the double doors that led to the emergency wing. He'd driven here in Mrs. Grayson's car, she'd insisted, and now he waited. He didn't know why he'd come. The woman was a stranger. She'd be fine without him. But something kept him rooted to the plastic chair. Unable to leave, a man in a police uniform approached. He was tall, mid-40s, with dark hair and a tired face. A badge on his chest read Officer Daniel Ruiz. "Ethan Cole?" Ethan stood. "Yes, I'm Officer Ruiz. I need to ask you a few questions about the woman you found." "Of course." They sat down. Ruiz pulled out a notebook. "You said you found her on Highway 16 around 5 this morning?" "Yes." "And she was unconscious?" "Yes, beaten." "Her wheelchair was destroyed." Ruiz wrote something down. "Did you see anyone else? Any vehicles?" "No. The road was empty." "Did she say anything?" Ethan hesitated. She mumbled something. I couldn't make it out. Something about her chair being burned. And a name. Veronica. Ruiz looked up sharply. "Veronica?" "Yeah. Does that mean something?" Ruiz was quiet for a moment. Then he closed his notebook and leaned forward. "Mr. Cole, the woman you found. Her name is Sophia Langford." Ethan blinked. The name meant nothing to him. Ruiz continued. "She's the CEO of Langford Industries, one of the largest manufacturing companies in the state. She's been missing for 2 days. Her family reported her disappearance on Wednesday night." Ethan's stomach dropped. Langford Industries. The name hit him like a punch to the gut. "Wait," he said slowly. "Langford Industries? The company that bought out Cole and Sons Construction 2 years ago," Ruiz finished. "Yeah. I looked into your background when I got the call. I'm sorry, Mr. Cole. I know what that company did to you." Ethan sat back, his mind reeling. Sophia Langford. The woman he'd carried 3 miles through the fog. The woman whose blood was still on his sheets. She was the reason he'd lost everything. Langford Industries had bought Cole and Sons Construction in the spring of 2023. Ethan's father had started the company 30 years ago, built it from nothing. When he died, he left it to Ethan. It wasn't much a small operation. 12 employees, enough work to get by, but it was theirs. Then Langford came in. They made promises. Expansion. New contracts. Growth. Instead, they gutted the company. Laid off the workers. Sold the equipment. Closed the doors. Ethan lost everything. The business. The savings. The house he'd shared with Caroline. He'd had to move into his father's old place, a drafty 2-bedroom cabin on the edge of town, and start over from scratch. And now, the woman who'd signed off on all of it was lying in a hospital bed, broken and beaten. Ethan should have felt anger, rage, but all he felt was hollow. Officer Ruiz stood. "I know this is a lot to process, but I need you to come with me. We have a few more questions." Ethan followed him down the hall, through a maze of corridors, until they reached a private room. Inside, Sophia Langford lay unconscious, hooked up to machines that beeped softly in the silence. Ruiz gestured to a chair. "Sit. A doctor will be in soon." Ethan, Saturday. He stared at the woman, this stranger, who wasn't a stranger at all. Her face was still swollen. Her arms were wrapped in bandages. But even like this, even broken, she looked small, fragile, not like the cold, ruthless CEO he'd imagined. The door opened. A little girl's voice broke the silence. "Daddy?" Ethan turned. His daughter Emma stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bear. Lila and Rose were behind her, holding Mrs. Grayson's hands. "Girls," Ethan said, startled. "What are you?" "Mrs. Grayson brought us," Lila said. "She said you were here. She said someone was hurt." Emma walked over to the bed. She looked at Sophia, her eyes wide. Then she set her bear on the blanket, next to Sophia's hand. "She looks sad," Emma said softly. "Maybe she needs a friend." Ethan's throat tightened. "Come on, girls," he said quietly. "Let's go." But as they left the room, Ethan looked back, and for just a moment, he could have sworn Sophia's fingers moved just slightly toward the bear. Sophia woke 2 days later. Ethan was there when it happened. He'd been sitting in the chair beside her bed, flipping through an old magazine, when her eyes opened. She blinked. Slow. Confused. Her gaze drifted around the room, the machines, the IV, the window, and then landed on him. Where? Her voice was a rasp, barely audible. Where am I? Street Helena Memorial, Ethan said. You're safe. She tried to sit up, winced, fell back against the pillows. What happened? I found you on Highway 16. You'd been hurt. Her eyes closed. A shudder ran through her. I remember. Ethan leaned forward. Who did this to you? She didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled on the blanket. Finally, she whispered, My sister. Veronica. Your sister? Sophia's eyes opened again. They were blue, sharp. Even through the pain. She wanted the company. She always wanted it. And when I wouldn't step down, her voice broke. She hired people. They took me from my house. They beat me. They destroyed my chair. They left me on that road to die. Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. Why didn't they just kill you? Sophia's laugh was bitter. Because I'm already supposed to be weak. Helpless. They thought the cold would do it for them. Or that no one would find me in time. But I did. Yes. She looked at him. Really looked at him. For the first time. You did. Why? Ethan didn't know how to answer that. Because you needed help. Most people would have kept walking. I'm not most people. Sophia studied him. Her gaze searching. No. I don't think you are. Over the next few days, Sophia's condition stabilized. The doctors said she'd been lucky, no internal bleeding, no permanent damage beyond what was already there. The paralysis in her legs was from an old injury, they explained. A car accident 5 years ago. But the beating had left her weak, her body battered. Ethan visited every day. He told himself it was because Officer Ruiz had asked him to. There was still an investigation, still questions. But the truth was, he didn't want to leave her alone. On the third day, he brought his daughters with him. Lila hung back, shy. Rose hid behind Ethan's leg. But Emma walked right up to the bed and climbed into the chair beside Sophia. Hi, Emma said. I'm Emma. That's your bear now. His name is Mr. Buttons. Sophia looked at the stuffed bear, still sitting on the blanket. A faint smile touched her lips. Thank you, Emma. He's very handsome. Emma beamed. Do you like stories? Daddy reads us stories every night. I do like stories. Good. Because I know a lot. And just like that, the tension broke. Later that night, after the girls had fallen asleep in the waiting room, Ethan and Sophia sat in the dim light of her hospital room. The machines beeped softly. The hallway outside was quiet. I know who you are, Ethan said suddenly. Sophia looked at him. What? Sophia Langford, CEO of Langford Industries. He paused. The company that destroyed mine. Her face went pale. Oh, Officer Ruiz told me 2 days ago. And you still came back? Yeah. Why? Ethan looked down at his hands. Because you're not the company. You're not the lawyers, or the contracts, or the buyout. You're just a person. And you were hurt. And I couldn't walk away. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. For what happened to you. I didn't know all the details. I trusted people I shouldn't have. I signed papers I should have read. And by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. Ethan nodded slowly. I was angry. For a long time. But, he looked at her. Anger didn't bring my wife back. It didn't pay the bills. It didn't help my daughters sleep at night. So, I let it go. I had to. How? By choosing to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "My sister thinks I'm weak because I can't walk. She thinks I'm broken. Useless. You're not. How do you know? Because weak people don't survive what you survived. Weak people don't keep fighting." Ethan leaned forward. "You're still here. That's not weakness. That's strength." Sophia looked at him, her eyes searching his face. And then, slowly, she smiled. A real smile. The first one he'd seen. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For finding me. For not walking away." Ethan reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, but they tightened around his. "You're welcome," he said. A week later, Sophia was discharged from the hospital. The police had arrested Veronica and 2 accomplices. The charges were attempted murder, kidnapping, and fraud. The trial would take months, but for now, Sophia was safe. Except she had nowhere to go. Her penthouse had been sealed off as part of the investigation. Her bank accounts were frozen pending a legal review. And the people she'd once called friends had vanished the moment the scandal broke. Ethan found her sitting in the hospital lobby, staring at the floor, her new wheelchair beside her. The hospital had provided it a basic model, nothing like the custom chair she'd lost. "Hey," he said softly. She looked up. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go." Ethan sat down beside her. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then, quietly, he said, "You could come home with me." Sophia blinked. "What?" "It's not much. Just an old cabin. But it's warm. And there's a spare room. And—" He trailed off, suddenly unsure. "I don't know. It just seems wrong to leave you here." "Ethan, I can't." "You can. If you want to." Sophia stared at him. "Why would you do that? After everything?" "Because it's the right thing to do." She shook her head, a small, disbelieving laugh escaping her. "You're a strange man, Ethan Cole." "I'll take that as a yes." The cabin was exactly as he'd described it. Old, drafty, but warm. Ethan had spent the morning building a ramp for the front steps. Rough wood nailed together. Uneven, but functional. He'd cleared out the spare room, moved the boxes to the attic, set up a bed. When Sophia rolled through the door, his daughters were waiting. "Welcome home," Emma shouted, throwing her arms around Sophia's neck. Lila hung back, but she was smiling. Rose peeked out from behind the couch, clutching Mr. Buttons. "Girls," Ethan said, laughing, "give her some space." But Sophia was smiling too. A real, genuine smile. "It's okay," she said. "I don't mind." That first night, they ate dinner together, spaghetti and garlic bread, nothing fancy, but enough. The girls chattered about school, about their friends, about the stray cat that lived under the porch. Sophia listened, her eyes bright, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. Later, after the girls had gone to bed, Ethan and Sophia sat on the porch. The night was cold, but clear. Stars filled the sky. "This is nice," Sophia said softly. "Yeah? Yeah. I haven't felt this peaceful in a long time." Ethan looked at her. "You're welcome to stay as long as you need." "Thank you." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind in the trees. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt something other than exhaustion. He felt hope. The weeks passed slowly, but not unpleasantly. Sophia settled into a rhythm. She woke early, before the girls, and worked on her laptop, managing what was left of her company from the kitchen table. Ethan went to work, came home, cooked dinner. The girls did their homework. And at night, after everyone else had gone to bed, Ethan and Sophia would sit together. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't, but they were never alone. One night, Sophia told him about the accident that had taken her legs. A drunk driver, a highway collision, 6 months in the hospital. She'd been 28. She'd thought her life was over. But you kept going, Ethan said. I didn't have a choice. My father was still alive then. He needed me to run the company. So I did. She paused. I threw myself into work. I told myself that if I couldn't walk, I'd at least be useful. I'd be successful. I'd prove I wasn't broken. And did you? I thought I did. But then Veronica. She made me realize that no matter what I accomplished, some people would always see me as less, as weak. Ethan shook his head. She's wrong. How do you know? Because I see you, every day, and you're not weak. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. You don't know how much that means to me. I think I do. He reached out and took her hand. She squeezed it, hard, and didn't let go. The next morning, Emma came running into the kitchen. Daddy. Miss Sophia smiled, like Mommy used to. Ethan froze. The spatula in his hand hovered over the frying pan. What? He said quietly. When she laughs, Emma said, oblivious to the weight of her words. It sounds like Mommy. Ethan looked at Sophia, who was sitting at the table, her cheeks flushed. She looked down at her coffee. Emma, Ethan said gently. Why don't you go wake your sisters? Emma nodded and ran off. Ethan set the spatula down. He walked over to the table and sat across from Sophia. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't. Don't apologize. He paused. Caroline. She had a laugh that could fill a room. And when she was gone, the house felt so quiet. I didn't think I'd ever hear that sound again. Ethan, but Emma's right. When you laugh, it's like hearing her again. And I don't know if that scares me or makes me happy. Sophia reached across the table and took his hand. Maybe it can be both. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time since Caroline died, he let himself feel something other than grief. He let himself feel love. Winter gave way to spring. The snow melted. The trees budded. And, in the little cabin on Ashwood Lane, something new began to grow. Ethan helped Sophia with physical therapy, exercises, stretches, resistance bands, small movements to keep her upper body strong. She worked hard, never complaining, even when the pain was obvious. In return, Sophia helped the girls with their homework. She taught Lila fractions. She read to Emma every night. She painted with Rose, filling the kitchen table with bright, messy colors. The cabin, once cold and empty, felt alive again. One afternoon, Rose ran outside with a handful of butterfly stickers. She climbed onto Sophia's lap and carefully placed them all over the wheelchair. Pink, yellow, blue, orange. Now it's pretty, Rose declared. Sophia laughed, tears streaming down her face. It's perfect. In April, the trial concluded. Veronica was sentenced to 15 years. The company was restructured. Sophia was offered her position back, but she declined. I don't want that life anymore, she told Ethan one night. I don't want boardrooms and spreadsheets and people who only see me as a name. I want this. I want something real. What does that look like? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. One night, snow fell unexpected, late in the season. The girls ran outside, laughing and shrieking, catching flakes on their tongues. Ethan and Sophia watched from the porch. I don't want to just survive anymore, Sophia said quietly. I want to live. Ethan turned to her. Then live. With you? If you want, she smiled. And then, slowly, she leaned forward. Ethan met her halfway. Their lips touched soft, tentative, real. When they pulled apart, Sophia was crying. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I, Ethan said. But we'll figure it out, together. The subpoena came in May. Sophia was called to testify in a civil suit against Veronica and the board members who'd enabled her. Ethan drove her to the courthouse, his hand never leaving hers. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the walls. Cameras flashed. Sophia sat at the front, her wheelchair visible to everyone, and told her story. She didn't hold back. She talked about the abuse, the manipulation, the years of being told she was worthless. And she talked about the night she was left on Highway 16, beaten and abandoned. When she finished, the room was silent. The judge ruled in her favor. Veronica's assets were seized. The company was dissolved. And Sophia was free. Outside, on the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed. Sophia raised a hand, and they fell silent. "I'm done being a victim," she said, "and I'm done being a symbol. From now on, I'm just Sophia, and I'm going to use what I have left to help people who've been where I was, people who've been told they're broken, people who've been left behind." She looked at Ethan, standing beside her. "Because someone once showed me that mercy is stronger than revenge, and that love is stronger than hate." The cameras flashed. The reporters shouted questions, but Sophia just smiled. That night, she announced the creation of the Cole Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping people with disabilities find meaningful work. Ethan's name, his legacy. "You gave me a second chance," Sophia said. "Now I want to give that to others." Ethan pulled her into his arms. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too." Spring turned to summer. The cabin was repaired, repainted, rebuilt. The ramp was replaced with something sturdy. The yard was filled with flowers. And one Sunday morning, Sophia packed a bag and told Ethan she had a surprise. She drove them to Seattle, to a house on a quiet street, with wide doorways and smooth floors and a garden in the back. "I bought it," she said. "For us. If you want it." Ethan stared at the house, then at her. "Sophia, I know it's fast, I know it's scary, but I don't want to waste any more time. I want a life with you. With the girls. I want a family." Ethan's throat tightened. He looked at his daughters, who were already running through the yard, laughing and shouting. He looked at Sophia, who was watching him with hope and fear and love, and then he knelt down beside her wheelchair. "Sophia Langford," he said, his voice shaking. "Will you marry me?" Sophia gasped. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes." He kissed her. And the girls came running, piling onto them in a tangle of arms and laughter and joy. 2 years later, Ethan and Sophia stood on Highway 16. The road was quiet. The fog had lifted. The sun was warm on their faces. Lila, now 11, held Rose's hand. Emma carried Mr. Buttons. And Sophia sat in her wheelchair, Ethan's hand resting on her shoulder. "This is where it started," Sophia said softly. "Yeah. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd kept walking?" Ethan looked down at her. "Every day. And every day, I'm grateful I didn't." Sophia smiled. May too. They stood there for a while, looking at the spot where their lives had intersected, where mercy had become love, where two broken people had found each other in the fog. "Come on," Ethan said finally. "Let's go home." Sophia nodded. And as they drove away, the road behind them disappeared into the distance. A memory, a beginning. A place where two souls had been saved, together,